Yes. Okay. So as we get started this evening, we have a couple announcements that I want to go over first because they're going to be really important and actually up and coming of some things that I want to make sure that you guys have on your radar. So first things first is, I know I'm going to say this every single week, probably until we're leading up to it, but the team retreat is well underway of planning all of the things. We hope to see you there and we'd absolutely love to have you. Like I keep saying, thanks, Paige. Like I keep saying, this is not going to be something that you want to miss out on. Okay. People are like, oh, I'll just go next year. No.
We might not get a chance to go to HQ next year.
We might not get a chance to go to HQ again. We might not get a chance to do that next year. We're trying to make every single year different. And so if you can swing it, if you can make it, we'd love for you to fill out the Google form. And again, we're trying to work all together to figure out, okay, are we going to get a couple different Airbnbs? How are we going to make it super cost effective for people? And the more people that we have, obviously, the easier that's going to be. So for those of you that already know or have already committed to going, you have a group message waiting for you with just a little bit more information. And we'll be chatting back and forth. So I did put that in the email. It's in a ton of the announcements. It's in the Facebook group. If you missed it, I don't know how the heck you missed it, but we would really love to have all of you guys because it's going to be awesome. Second thing is, if you looked in your email today, please take some time this week to complete the post-challenge reflection. That's a Google form. So what I sent out was basically asking for the challenge, what were your goals? Did you accomplish them? There's some housekeeping things in there as well. That really helps Logan and I figure out what you guys want to do for the next challenge, what you've been liking, maybe some things you want to change. You guys know us. We're always trying to improve. We're always trying to bring something else to you. So please, by Sunday night, if you can have that filled out, I would really appreciate it. There's some places where you have to put short answer, a lot of multiple choice, a lot of check all that apply, but it's really not going to take you too long. I'm asking for maybe 10 minutes of your time to help move the Invictus score forward. Do you have anything to say about that? Nothing? Okay.
No.
And then our last thing, I want to say this right now. This will not be starting. This will not be in effect until the beginning of the next challenge. And that is, we are going to be changing assessment days from Thursdays and Fridays to Wednesdays and Thursdays. Okay. The reason for this is I know a lot of you guys are traveling on the weekends. What else is coming up? Holiday season. And we know that so many of you get busy and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot my assessment. And remember, we have the 2-strike rule with the assessment, right? The only reason that we do that is to make sure you guys are as involved in your journey as we are and to make sure you're getting feedback every single week. So having them on Wednesdays and Thursdays is going to allow Logan and I to get to them a little bit before the weekend. But guess what? You get feedback then before the weekend as well. And less excuses of being like, oh my gosh, I forgot about it, whatever it may be, right? So it's going to be great for you, but it's also going to be really great for us that sometimes we're working into Sundays right now, and this will push it back. So like maximum, or maybe working into Saturday morning. So again, this will not go in effect until the fall challenge, which should be the first or second weekend of October, or the second week. They never really tell me when it is until like a week before, but you will have the Thursday, Friday until then. And then we're just bumping it back or bumping it up a day, I guess.
Yeah, this is something that Kelsey and I have talked about. I know this isn't the first time we've changed it, but if people are traveling, it's less common that they're going to be traveling on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So, and that's true for you. That's true for us as well, because it's two-way street. We want the information and the feedback that we provide to you to easily be incorporated into the next week as soon as possible. So if we are making this change, it's going to be a synergistic effort on both sides. So I think it's going to be really positive.
Absolutely. So nothing else is going to change besides, like, you still want to do your summary. We're still going to have the team calls on Wednesdays. Like we're still going to have that, but we also haven't changed assessment days in over a year. So it's just tons of reflection, tons of us staying up, into late Saturday and Sunday night saying, okay, we need a little bit of our weekends up for time to do other things to prep for the week. So this is going to be really great for us. And we appreciate your guys' understanding. So any questions about any of those things, the team call, the Google form that was sent out, or the changing of assessments when the next challenge starts?
Pretty straightforward.
Anything?
We were going to do one day for submissions, but we decided on 2.
I want to give you guys at least
maybe
48
that'll
hours.
happen next year. I don't know.
Give me a thumbs up if we're all good to go.
They're rocking.
Okay,
sweet.
cool. So this week we have a topic that I have been talking a lot to my clients about. I feel like you've been throwing it in here and there, talking about it too, but it's something I wanted to address as a community because I think it's a really, really great thing to focus on if you have not been focusing on it, but it's also a really great topic to maybe bring up to friends and family who quite aren't ready to commit to their nutrition journey, or maybe they're not ready to get back to the gym 4 to 5 days a week, you really can change their life with this simple thing. And this week we are going to be talking about setting a step goal. And I want to ask you guys right off the bat, who on the team by a show of hands has a step goal? Or you also can put it in the comments down below, like, yep, I have a step goal.
Yeah, I know Jenny does.
Yeah, Jenny does. And then I want you to follow it up by putting it in the chat and say, like, what is your step goal? Let's hold each other accountable. Is your step goal 10,000? Is it 15,000? Is it 5,000? There's no wrong answer here because it's going to be different for every single person. Okay. But put your step goal down below. I really want us to hold ourselves accountable to that. And then as you're putting those in there, mine's 10K a day. Jenny, you're awesome and you get 15,000 a day. I love it. For those of you guys that didn't know, in July, she did 22,000 steps a day, which is insane. But I love that. Okay. So we're getting some 10,000, some 8,000, some 5,000.
Maybe not insane. That's badass.
Yeah. I meant that as a compliment, Jenny. But what I want you to start to think about is, why do you have a step goal? So as we start to go through this, did you just throw out an arbitrary number and it's like, hey, I want to shoot for 10K or I want to shoot for 8K or whatever
Kelsey
it is.
Peer pressure you into it?
Maybe not peer pressure, but highly suggest.
Just why did you do it? And if you've done it before, what made you stick with it too? Sorry,
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to hijack
You're
it,
okay.
but I just wanted to add to it.
Yeah, so start to think about that.
Suggestion.
And
Jenny said it was Kelsey.
It was probably me. But think about that. So as we're going to start to talk through some of those, like why do you have a step goal? Or maybe what do you want to know about more of the benefits of a step goal? And we're going to talk about that. So start off with the first one. The
benefits of a step goal. So there's a lot of science that goes into it. Kelsey's going to talk about a study later on towards the end of it, but it's similar to having, I think tying in the parallel of having like a to-do list. It's really daunting sometimes when you let that to-do list grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. There's so many things that you got to do, so on and so forth. And the best way to do it, everyone I think intuitively knows, is to just chunk away at it. Get one thing crossed off at a time. Well, when you are implementing a step goal within, whether you've done it before or maybe you haven't, it allows you to break down a larger task into more digestible pieces. So where would that larger task be in this parallel? Well, your larger task is getting you from where you are now to where you want to go. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen week in and week out, month in and month out, progressively through time as it passes. So why not do something, a little something, even though it's not little in the grand scheme of things, in the moment it truly is. 30 minutes a day, and we're going to give examples of how this can compound, but chunking away at it week by week, but even breaking it down further day by day, that does make sustainable long-term progress with time. So the compound effect really does start to take over. Anything else you want to add to that?
I think that's a really great way to segue into it. So we're talking about breaking down larger, overwhelming things into smaller, achievable milestones, right? So we'll expand on that in a second.
I want to hit Jenny. Thanks for sharing that. She said, for those that are watching the recording, Jenny had put in the chat, I like to try to increase each month to see what I can do. Plus, I don't want my body to get comfortable on the same steps. It is an effective way. I was going to say stepping. Stepping is like a breakdancing thing. Like hitting your daily step goal is something that 100% can get you to where you want to go. Is it going to be as effective as incorporating resistance training every once in a while? No, not necessarily. But on top of your resistance training that you're doing, pushing your step goal is extremely important. There's a lot of positive benefits that can come from a health perspective too. So I think it's cool, Jenny, that it's not that you did it once and you hammered it for 30 days. It's like, man, I really like how I felt, and my changes that I started to see composition wise, maybe even mentally, right? So I'm going to push it a little bit further. I just wanted to kind of give you a gold star pat on the back, because that's cool.
Yeah, I like
it's easy
that.
To say you're going to do it, and then it's another thing to actually follow through. So good for you.
Yeah. So then the second point is, if we're talking about the importance of a step goal, this is able to, setting a step goal provides you a clear focal point for other times and places in your health and fitness journey where you should be expending energy and effort. And this enables us to prioritize tasks and essentially eliminate non-essential activities, if you will. So if you concentrate on actions that are going to align with your goals, like a step goal, such as, scheduling your walks, finding safe routes, whatever it may be, you can then begin to track that progress as well. And you're going to focus on your energy and say, okay, I have 30 minutes. I'm going to get out and go for a walk instead of I have 30 minutes, I'm going to scroll social media. Or I have 30 minutes, I'm going to get out and go for a walk instead of I'm going to lay on the couch and just binge a TV show, whatever it may be. Having that step goal, knowing that you're trying to hit something every single day, similar to macros, but it's going to keep you motivated. It's going to keep you trying to push towards that. And it's going to really put these non-essential tasks or these tasks that don't necessarily move us forward to the wayside.
Yeah. I don't really have much else to add to that. You hit on all those points.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's number 3.
Well, you kind of had Kelsey had kind of taken my point, but
Sorry.
that's okay. We're married, so you can do that.
Go on.
What's mine is yours.
Go on.
But Kelsey had touched on it, like it provides a sense of achievement and motivation for you, especially if you're in a rut, right? You get in a rut and there are certain things that you want to implement from a physical exercise perspective, but even thinking about starting can be daunting. Well, start by doing something that everybody does anyways throughout the day. You have to get up or you have to walk to get from A to B. You have to walk from the bed to the shower to the dresser to get your clothes on, and then you got to walk all the way to your car, and then you got to walk around at work using something that you do on a day-to-day process, but then adding a little bit more can be very advantageous in increasing the amount of accomplishment, or I guess that sense of accomplishment that you do have. And by stringing together days of hitting a step goal, it's really interesting to, I guess, experience what that does for your perspective, because then you're going to be a lot more open-minded to doing that next thing that might be difficult for you. So say that you hit your step goal for 2 weeks straight, and that's all you do. Say you're in a rut and you hit your step goal for 2 weeks every day for 2 weeks straight. After that 2-week mark, I'd be willing to bet, and Kelsey probably would too, that you're going to be a lot more apt to be entertaining the idea of going to the gym or picking up some weights, maybe 1 time a week or twice a week.
Absolutely.
So that the small chunks of accomplishment that you're providing yourself will motivate you naturally to do something else that is going to help you move forward.
100%. So this is what I was talking about at the beginning of saying, hey, maybe you got a family member or a friend who's not quite ready to get in the gym or start tracking their nutrition or whatever. Say, hey, why don't you come on a 30-minute walk with me? I know Ginny did this for a while with her mom, which was awesome to get her outside and doing those things. Anytime my mom and I are together, we're usually like, okay, are we going for a walk in the morning or something like that? Or I was just with my sister-in-law this weekend, and like, do we get the kids out for a walk in the morning? Whatever it may be. Setting a step goal like that is such a fantastic, not only entry level into your fitness journey, but then something that you can continually push your limits with no matter where you are in your fitness journey. And I want to segue into the last point that we have here of talking about the benefits of a step goal is step goal is a fantastic low intensity exercise like walking, and it is such a simple solution to burning fat. So let's break that down. This can help, like hitting your step goal or whatever step goal you're hitting can help increase the deficit that you're in. Now, remember, deficit is less calories in than calories out. We have to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. We can't eat more than we're expending and expect to lose weight. It just doesn't work like that. If we eat the same input and output, we're going to maintain our weight. But if we have less calories coming in than we're expending, we should see that scale drop. Or if we don't see the scale drop as fast, we're going to see the inches change in our body composition change. But that increasing the step goal, burning more calories at that lower intensity is going to increase that deficit that you're in, therefore aiding in fat loss, pushing fat loss a little bit farther. But what's really cool about walking in a step goal is it stimulates oxidation of fat, which is lipolysis, in your adipose or your fat tissue, and it releases those fatty acids into the bloodstream. And then those fatty acids are used as energy by the muscles for fat burning. So if you get your body in that state for a long enough time, it realizes, okay, I'm not using carbs right now, like weightlifting. I'm using fats, and sure, I might pull from a little bit of the recent nutrition I had, but I'm pulling from the stores that are on my body because I have to maintain this steady state activity. It'd be the same thing if you were cycling, if you were doing yoga, if you were doing Pilates, or if you were rollerblading, activities like that. But walking, especially at a brisk intensity, if you will, Also helps increase your resting metabolic weight rate, which is your RMR or your basal metabolic rate. Now, that's how many calories you burn at rest. So if you think about, if I do this day after day after day, my body naturally at rest is going to have to burn more calories to keep my body recovered. So you also can actually, in the long term, affect your resting metabolism of how effective your metabolism or how efficient you burn fat for fuel is. And again, the more that you're walking, it's going to prime that body to say, hey, I need to pull more fat. I need to pull more fat. So I think that's a really interesting point, because I think a lot of the times, I'll talk to you guys really quick and say, hey, do you have a step goal? Do you have something like that? And you're like, oh, maybe I'm consistently hitting 4,000 a day or whatever. And I'm like, okay, let's push it to 6,000, right? The reason I'm trying to do that is, again, to get your body more efficient and effective at utilizing your fat store, specifically if you have a weight loss or a fat loss goal, and to make sure that in the long run, your metabolism at rest is just a lot more efficient than it used to be.
So Kelsey had mentioned like moderate exercise or moderate intensity. It depends on what scientific research you're looking at, but I'll just go based off the CDC. They say any sort of exercise that is considered moderate intensity is over 50%. I think they consider it like 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. So I'd put in the chat to shoot for a heart rate when you're walking, especially if you have a fitness monitor, to get it over 100. I was going to put 100, but 110 beats per minute. That will probably be around your 60-ish% threshold for most people with their maximum heart rate. I didn't look at the statistical averages of like what's the average adult female versus male and their heart rate intensity, or excuse me, heart rate max. If you're really curious, it's kind of hard to measure. So this isn't something we're encouraging you to, go to a sports science clinic and get on one of those treadmills like a Gatorade commercial and start running. I did that one time, but I was playing college football, so it was a little bit more advantageous for me. But nonetheless, getting it over 100, if not even better at 110 beats per minute when you're on a walk, that's a good metric if you're somebody that likes to have that type of number. Luke,
Yeah.
I think unmuted. So go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I've read a little bit into the max heart rates, and generally, rule of thumb is it does decrease as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in your 20s, then it's usually around that 180 to 190 for maximum heart rate, and then you can almost figure it's going to drop off about 10 beats for every decade that you are. So technically, my max heart rate should be somewhere in the 170 range.
Mm-hmm.
Regularly push it up to 185 beats a minute still, but everyone's different. But that's why I was just going to, the 110 beats a minute is a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And obviously, I don't expect my grandma to go out and get her heart rate up to 180, right? Grandma's not going to be here much longer if she does that. But it's a really great, it's a good measure of progress. So I always like to look and be like, okay, I'm keeping pace, or sometimes I'm going to out Kaiser here. I love him. But when I'm walking with Kaiser, I'm like, buddy, we are not going very fast right now. Okay. We got to pick it up a little bit for that fat loss. But before we go on to looking at setting your step goal, how do you calculate your step goal? What questions do you guys have about anything so far about the benefits of a step goal? If nothing, you can just give me a thumbs up or put a thumbs up in the comments or whatever. We're all good to go. It's pretty self-explanatory. Okay. If you have questions though, please put them down in the chat. So we're going to move on to the last part of this. So we just talked about the benefits, what it's good for fat loss, how it can be habit stacking, how it can work really well into your routine and kind of be the segue of you accomplishing a lot of other things. But then let's look at how to set a step goal. Okay. So one of the most important things right away is before you set a step goal, you got to know where you are. Now, I know that there's a lot of fancy trackers out there like Apple Watches. I have an Oura Ring as well. Both of them track steps. And yes, is there going to be a little bit of discrepancy between the two? 100%. Newer technology, not so new technology. But a good default is, even if you don't have a Fitbit, you don't have an Apple Watch or Garmin or whatever, take your phone with you. The health app on your phone should be able to track your steps. Now, of course, you have to have your phone with you most of the time. And I know not everybody loves that, but that is an option. So I always like to ask, clients and ask people, hey, where is your step goal at currently? Like, what do you hit? And then are you consistent at hitting that? Because a lot of the times when we start looking at steps, this was the case for me in my journey. Some days I'd hit 10K and then I'd be at 4K and 6K and 7K. I'm like, okay, I need to start to figure out kind of like an average between those and start to hit them. So what I settled on when I was in grad school really learning about that was 6,000 steps. So I was like, okay, can I be consistent at that? And what I did was for about 2 weeks, I allowed myself to be consistent at the 6,000. And like Logan said earlier, I assessed myself. Did I like how I felt at the 6K, or did I feel like, okay, you know what, this is actually getting a little bit easy now, I'm going to push it? And the answer is I pushed it. So if you have found out what your average step goal is, you're hitting that relatively consistently, my first piece of advice for you to set another step goal is going to be 2,000 steps above what you're getting in your daily average. That's another 20-minute walk, if you will. That's a brisk walk. I mean, 15 minutes if you're hauling it, or you can go on a 10-minute jog or whatever. But that extra 2,000 can really make a very big difference. Of course, depending on how high your heart rate is and how many calories you're burning on your overall fat loss journey.
So another thing to bring up is like, well, for people that really like numbers, and want to be very specific in knowing that some of these fitness trackers differ from Garmin to Fitbit to Apple Watch to whatever, because there's so many, I can't keep up with them. As long as you use, or I guess reference the same device,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to start seeing some progress. You're going to start seeing some change, because if you keep that consistent and change that number, who cares if it's a couple hundred steps off? You just know, and I'm saying that in relation to other fitness trackers, you know that if you're increasing your weekly or your daily average of your step goal, you're moving in the right direction. So don't let that halt any progress, or let, I guess, like, just stop you from advancing forward or even trying to assess it. And then another thing too is, regardless of if you're a iPhone, if you're camp iPhone, or if you're camp Android, most of those health apps are able to average out like monthly steps. If you dive through the analytics a little bit further, I can't speak for the Android users because I'm not an Android person, but when all else fails, just YouTube it. How do I find my step goal using this phone that I have? Throw it into YouTube. You'd be surprised how many people just have random videos like that that'll answer it. So that'll help you, as like Kelsey's saying, establish your current average and then figure out, okay, from there, can I hit another 2,000 on top of it?
Yeah. And I just put everything I talked about in the chat because I know it was kind of hard to be like, okay, wait, what am I doing? So if you look that over in the chat as well, again, look where you currently are, average that out for 2 weeks, and then shoot for 2,000 higher than that. That's a really great place to start. And Logan's going to talk about a really good way. Again, if you're a numbers person, you're a visual person, you say, okay, we're just going to let's use 10,000, for example. This is how I commit to it.
Yes.
Go ahead.
She's going to turn the do not disturb because I forgot that. My bad. So let's say that your goal is 10,000 steps and you look at your day, especially your weeks, like the weekdays, and you see how many hours are you awake. For easy numbers, I chose that you're awake for 15 hours. So 5:30 a.m. and you go to bed at 8:30 p.m. So there's your 15 hours. If you have a goal, a step goal of 10,000 steps, you obviously would take 10,000 and divide that by 15 hours. So you need to average about 670 steps per hour. That will help people that like to, that again, like numbers and like, what is that saying? Like, what's the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So it's like, you're going to take 15 bites out of this elephant every single day. 670 is a good metric for you in terms of an hourly step goal. So obviously, if you're awake more or if you're awake less, you still would take that overall number and divide it by the amount of hours that you are awake or aren't awake, and you would roll from there. So another way to do it is say, I'm going to get, instead of quantifying it by an hourly goal, you can, because Kelsey does this on the weekend. She's like, I'm not going to sit down on the couch or what did you do last 2 weekends ago? She was like, before 5 o'clock, I'm gonna have 8,000 steps in for the day. So figuring out what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, or maybe even on the weekend, if there's something that you want to get done, or like maybe a get-together social gathering with friends or family, you can say or give yourself I guess a goal within a goal, a smaller goal within the bigger goal, to say, before I go and do this, I'm going to have X percentage of my overall step goal complete before I go to it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. That's what really helped me in the beginning, was dividing it by the hours that I was awake, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like 10,000 felt like such a gargantuan task. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do that. And then I realized it was only 600 steps every hour if I was awake for 15 hours or so. I'm like, okay, I can do that. But like Logan said, I challenge myself on the weekends. I'm like, I'm going to get 5,000 steps in before 9 a.m. or whatever it may be. And I like to have that little game with myself. So if you're someone who likes to gamify things, Logan taught me that. It's a really great thing to do. So, any questions about how to set a step goal, and then any questions about how to break it down throughout the day? You guys have anything in there?
pretty
Nothing?
straightforward,
Okay.
but nonetheless.
I'm gonna say something too.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to mention is there's no wrong answer to your step goal. Okay. But what I want you to sit back and think about is, let's say that you've been at your steps consistently for a month. You've really been tracking your nutrition very close. You're hitting like, 90% of the time. If you don't see the scale changing, or you don't see the measurements changing the way that you want to, that's a really good indication that your step goal needs to be set higher. Or if you're looking at your watch and your let's say that your step goal is 7,000, and by noon you're already at 7,000, you got to push it a little bit more. You absolutely do. So the step goal, it shouldn't be to the point where it makes you uncomfortable, but you should actively have to work at it every single day. Like, without me tracking my steps, I roughly get 7,500 a day. So I make my goal 10K. So when I get home, I usually have to get on my walking pad, or we've got to get out with Kaiser for me to push it just a little bit, because I know that's increasing my deficit. That's making sure that I'm focusing on a really good, healthy, fat loss, weight loss, body composition goal. So I wanted to share that too, that again, there's no wrong answer for you. And then the last thing we want to say, just to finish up with this, is why should you care about a step goal, right? So maybe you hear like, oh, Kelsey, I'm already working out and I'm training, I'm doing all this. Like, why do I have to have a step goal as well? Well, the answer is you don't have to do anything, right? You can choose to do this, but many of us do have a fat loss goal. So it is key for us to make sure that we are moving. And a really cool thing that I was reading today, just with research, is studies found that even taking roughly 4,000 steps a day was associated with a reduced risk of all-cause mortality. So all causes of death. If you just walked 4,000 steps a day, you're going to live a lot longer. So that's really cool, right? But we're saying, hey, let's push it a little bit farther. Like we talked about before, the CDC, whoever you want to look at, recommends 150 minutes of moderate intense aerobic activity per week. Walking at a pace of over 110 beats per minute would count as that. So what I would encourage you all, especially on the days you are not weight training, you got to get outside. You got to walk. The weather's getting nicer now. Thank the Lord we can do that. But put your feet to pavement. Use that resistance. And it's also going to be really good for your preservation of lean muscle tissue as well, because you're keeping that body in motion. And obviously, hitting that step goal can lead to a ton of increased health benefits, including heart and lung health, right? Because your respiratory system is working the entire time. If you really want to work your respiratory system, come to Alabama and walk with your weighted vest in the middle of summer. That'll do it. But
get your oxygen by drinking the air.
yes, it reduces your risk of heart disease, and it also helps manage, high blood pressure, diabetes, things like that. So again, creating a step goal can really build such a consistent habit, even when it's on days where it's challenging to get in some sort of activity. This can lead to long-term changes in behavior, improved in overall health. Like, truly, there's no reason for you really not to set a step goal. So I want to hear some of your guys' feedback. I would really love for a couple people, like 2 or 3, to unmute yourselves and share, like, here's how I feel in the days I hit my step goal. Here's how the days I don't feel on my step goal. Or here's what I've noticed since implementing a step goal. So I'd really appreciate if like 2 or 3 of you could be vulnerable and share that, so we also can keep this community growing too. Who wants to share?
I'll share something.
Thanks, Bailey.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've noticed that if I don't have a step goal, because I work a desk job, and so if I don't have a step goal, I'll find myself getting like no steps.
Yeah.
And so I have to have something to work for and be like, okay, I need to get up and move. Otherwise,
I
at the
like
end of
that.
the day, I look at my steps and I'm like, wow, I have none.
Yeah, I have none. And it also is like, it's a good reset through the middle of the day, right? If you're working on a project or whatever with coworkers and you go out for a little bit and you come back, the likelihood of you being more focused is significantly higher than if you weren't going to do that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Who else has something they want to share? I don't want to pick on anybody, but here, Jenny, I'll ask to unmute you. I can see you're
She
trying to
can't
talk.
get her.
See if that works. There you
Okay,
go.
there we go. So I was bad at not getting steps or anything. So I spoke with you and you told me, hey, we need to work on your step goal.
Mhm.
So now I started working on my step goal. Of course, I hit 22,000. I can't remember what the other one number was at the moment. And then that became an issue of trying to hit it too much. So I took it down to 15,000. And some days I still have struggles because I have a 12-hour
Mhm.
forklift job, sitting forklift job. So some days it's really hard for me to try to get my steps in,
Yeah.
but I try to push myself as much as I can and stand and walk. And if I catch myself sitting, I get up and I start moving around and things like that. So, and it feels good to hit it, but then some days it's sad when I don't hit it like I want to because, I know we have obstacles. So,
Yeah. But I'm glad that you shared that too, that again, having a primarily a sedentary job, but you and I have also talked about how on the days that you consistently hit your step goal, your body wants to do more of that, right? You're like,
oh
I
yeah,
want to get out and I want to do those things. So it's huge to be able to, get to the point where your body craves that. And, it's like, yeah, it's always like, oh, bummer, I was a little bit short, but guess what? You just course correct and you do it the next day. So that's the importance of having a goal, is otherwise you wouldn't know where the target is to hit. So I'm so proud of you, Jenny. It was so cool.
right.
You hit 22,000 in July and now 15,000. Like, you're amazing. So,
And which at the beginning when we first spoke, I mean, I thought I was hitting around 10,000 a day until I went and looked at my tracker and it was like, oh my goodness. I mean, some days I was hitting 7,000, some days I was hitting 8,000. I was like, okay, I gotta make a goal when I just need to do this.
yeah,
So
I love that.
that's just what I've been doing.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm proud of you.
It's paid great
That's
dividends.
really cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm proud of myself.
As you should. You deserve that.
Good, good. I love it. Does anybody else have like one more thing they want to add about step
Yeah.
goal, setting a step goal, anything like that? Nothing.
And if
I'll go.
I was gonna say, I know, Christy, you hit that 10K goal, so let's go, girl.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, my daily walks. I mean, it's just mirroring everything you guys have said, really, right? I mean, I sit at a desk all day, and I have a bad habit of hyper focusing. So if I don't schedule my walks in or my workouts in, whatever it might be, I'll hit like 2,000 steps, 2,500 steps. It's bad. So having that step goal, I try to knock it out first thing in the morning, especially if I'm wearing my vest. That bit me this afternoon, big time. 80 degrees, but the mental clarity, and then again being able, like when you finish that and you surpass that, it's just such an awesome feeling, and your body does crave it. I mean, I hit my 45 minutes today with the vest, and it was time to pick up my daughter from school, and I was like, no, I'm gonna walk to the school today and we'll walk home, so yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I had one day, I'm not Ginny yet, but I might have to up that step goal. But yeah, over the weekend I hit 18,000, which is a lot, huge for me. But those nature walks helped a lot too.
Absolutely. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing, because that mental clarity is a huge aspect of it too. I'm just a happier person when I get outside. And so
Yeah.
it's cool to push for that, but it's also like, man, let me notice something that's not my phone. Let me notice something around me. So thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. I really appreciate it. Yay. What else do you have to add? Anything to finish up?
No, we got like less than 4 minutes. I would say, especially if you're in a rut, this is a really good way to get out of a rut. But then number 2, if you're not in a rut, this is a really good way to stay out of it, because the benefits, and I don't think we specifically talked about it, I'll just touch on it briefly, by incorporating moderate intensity walking intentionally on top of what you already do, it's very, very effective for muscle recovery.
Yeah.
And it's more than just your legs. It's also your abs. It's also your upper body as well, especially if you're cooking at a decent clip, if you're walking at a decent pace and getting that heart rate over 100, 110 beats per minute, you got to be using your arms, and you got to be using your stomach muscles to and your diaphragm to breathe and circulate all that blood throughout your system. So it's a really good way to make sure that you stay on track as well. And like Christy had alluded to, that she's been experiencing, it's like something that you crave. It's because you're quite literally changing some of your reward systems in your mind in order to how do I feel good about myself, and how do I continue doing the things that I know are going to make me feel good? Well, you have to kind of rewire your reward system, and the dopamine release that can come from exercise, we've definitely talked about, but it can also come from hitting a step goal on a consistent basis. So don't shy away from it, and don't think that it's a small thing, because in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it might seem small, but again, compound it weekly
Yeah.
and then monthly. There's a lot of things that come from it that are really positive. So we appreciate everybody that shared, because it's hard to unmute yourself in front of people that you may or may not have met before. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
And the thing we
That's
want to
all we got.
leave you with too, really quick, is just, so many of you who are watching live, you already did this, but if you're watching the recording or if you're on live and you didn't say it, just let us know this week in your assessment, what is your step goal? Or say, hey, you know what? I'm actually really struggling setting a step goal. What should my daily step goal be? And let's talk about it, because again, running the play is calories, protein, water, movement, which doesn't just mean like I did my 30 minutes and I'm done for the day. It's movement throughout the day. Just like we want to space out protein, we want to space out movement as well. So let us know what your step goal is going to be. We're excited for you guys. I'm excited for assessments to open tomorrow and for us to get back to it. It's going to be a good month. I can feel it, a month off from the challenge, which is always kind of nice to solidify some habits and different things like that. So we will talk to y'all tomorrow in assessments, and we hope you have such a fantastic rest of your evening.